So, to begin off the session, I saw that the, the previous cast session, we were opening in the above the fair value, and when price opens above fair value, either it wants to take off or it wants to come back into fair value. So my initial play, looking at the delta, was to long um, higher, looking for a price to continue higher. But price did not do that. But that was my bias. And I played the volume profile from there. I have a bias, played the volume profile and the delta, making sure they are aligned. And that was the game plan. So my trade I had to deal on this was that I was looking for a continuation through this zone here where there's a little battle between the buyers and the sellers, and it looked good. But it was taking a while to break through, and on that alone, I should have knew that I should have broke even as soon as possible and looked for a retouch of that area, but I didn't, and ended up taking a loss on this one. This would have been a perfect time for me to look for like a rejection. Price had built up. There have been some uh, buildup of sellers in the area, uh, with a decent sized buyer right above the sellers cluster. With the little battle that happened between the buyers and sellers, it looks like the sellers had won already, but there was just a little pullback. So If this was the case, and the sellers had truly won, there should have been an acceleration of price below the big order, the yellow bubble, to continue lower. But with this return to the battle between the buyers and the sellers, I should have been entering right about there or a little bit before there for the continuation lower. I've seen this a few times in my back test, even the back test that I did yesterday. So I should have been on top of it, but that's okay. We'll get better at this. So we ended up getting that acceleration through that big order there. And we got like a battle. This was spread out battle below those big orders. And I was looking to catch the continuation, a momentum continuation. Now that I'm looking at it, hindsight, of course, once price tapped into that big order and returned, I should have took my order off the book and waited for a better setup. So ran right through it, didn't give a chance, just absorbs those orders and comes back to basically balance the market for continuing. So this setup was actually a classic setup that we saw in the back test. So market switched from the delta being majority green to majority sellers. Yeah, it broke below big orders, tested it, held it, and I was looking for a retest and then continuation. Um, I got scared, which you'll see in a few minutes. I got scared once I was tapped in and price began to move in my direction, closed in my direction, and I went to break even just a little bit too soon. I'm not even break even, but I brought my stops uh, inside of the zone way too fast when I should have allowed for the trade to play out, basically. So I took an unnecessary loss right here. So I took an unnecessary loss, and later on, I try to make up for the mistake. But it literally gives me another setup later on in the session. So I still believed in this move after that break even because of how the market was basically respecting that big order down at the low, and Delta was still in control. There was no unusual buy Delta coming in. Again, with the stop loss, I moved it way too soon. If I just would have waited, this trade, this was the unnecessary loss that I took because I got afraid. Fear, gotta go. And I did see those two green buy orders at the top. And usually when you see two buy orders at a swing high, they're going. It's going down, along with the delta being bearish, along with the big order being there. But the big order doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to stop right at the big order. So this stop loss move was not smart. I should have waited for a close below the swing low. And that's what we shall do next time. right around this time, my son had started to cry. My daughter had just woken up, and I had to start getting everybody together. And I wanted to go to break even, but with my son crying, I was like trying to figure out what he wanted and waiting for it to close below my initial entry, and ended up getting stopped out, which is normal. But my stop loss, just like I said, shouldn't have been there just yet. I should have waited. And as I looked at it after getting stopped out, I'm like, man, this is like the perfect play out right here. So I hop back in because it didn't just reject that big order once or twice, but it had, when I entered, started to reject it 3 times. And 3 times is the charm. So as it began to fall, I was like, yeah, this is an easy break even as long as it closed below and we get a double close below. I'm like, this is too easy. This is the trade I should have taken. Or the trade before that was the best trade. But if I'm going to take a trade, this is a great one too. And looking at it, there's a little bell right there where the big order was, and that was rejected. So made it even stronger. What I wanted to see here is for that aerial low to be broken and close below, and then to have as I'm looking at it, if this would have come back and tapped me out, I know that we're looking at least a push up. I'm still holding on to it, didn't let go. And as it moves down, I just place it back. But it would have stopped me out if it would have spiked because I never let go. So right here, I'm looking for the close below. That would that gave me the confidence to hold on as long as I did. Because once it closed below the area low, it's telling me that it wants to accept lower prices. Plays around. Right now, like I'm up, like trying to make sure my son is good, and at the same time getting my daughter something. Then I tell them, hey, go sit down for a second while daddy's in the street. This candle does scare me, but I have confidence because of how it's moving and how it moved. So I had 3 rejections up top. It closed below the swing low. Confidence is high. The reason I'm hovering over and over my stop loss is because I think that there probably could be one more move up based on how it moved previously. So it bounced, and the lows were getting higher, but also the highs were getting lower, at least where price closed or open. And right here, I'm like, yeah, we should be good. But if it comes back up, I don't want to lose more than $1,000 on another day. So I'm gonna move it so that that's not the case. And I accept it. Price praise around at the lows, but I'm still confident based off of the back test. And that delta is so strong under this level, under that level, where that big order was. Profile is pretty balanced. When I say balanced, like it's a low profile, so looking for somewhat of a trend. Looking for an explosion below that big order, sitting right there at that major swing low of the session. Once that explosion happens, I want to be on top of this trade. This trade. Boom. We're at the big order. I did not like the way it pulled away from it. I wanted to see a crazy explosion. I gave it a chance. See buyers try to step in, which is a good sign. So at this point, I saw the buyers try to step in, and if the buyers held up like on top of that big buy order, I wanted to get some money off the table. So that's why I grabbed that. But price did not close above that. Or did it? It did. So I technically should have exited right here. But I gave it a chance. Almost stopped out. If I wasn't in the trade at this point, I would have been looking to enter below that little battle that happened at the big orders at the swing low. Because price should definitely accelerate. Below that swing low point where the big order was, below the value area low. I'm just drawing out the battle that happened at that level, which prompted me to re-enter. I may have messed up with the TP. I should have had it just at the low, but I wanted to take a little bit of profit for the stress of the day. Um, but that ended up making me make less, if that makes sense. full TV would have been a hit if I would have waited, but with the kids screaming, son throwing stuff, daughter have to get to school, it's better for me to just take the money and go, even if I was in drawdown more than I made. And here comes the acceleration. And five, four, three, two. Well, my memory's not that good. And if I are low, just lowered to that big order. And I wanted to see a continued push. That's why I got my stop ready. Who's going to win? That's what I'm thinking in my head. Boom, boom, boom. And nope, one more. Layer a little low again to the previous swing low. Oh, I suck at this. I want to see it close below these big orders. Like a nice close. It's struggling to go back up, so I'm okay. It feels like going back up, like I already had put my stop in a little bit of profit. Still would have been a overall like $800 loss of the day, but I did not want that 1,000. It gives me a little bit more room for tomorrow. Yeah, nope. Here we go. I'm trash at that. Right here, there is like a foundation starting to look like it might play out. Because all those sells at the low. I'm like, why are they selling at the low? And this right here, if price was to close below that, I know we're going. So I'm getting excited. I don't like that it's not pushing, but I do like that price look like it wants to close below. Mm. Sellers are building up at the low. Buyers trying, but just not happening. And I do know that just from the example above, that price could come back and kind of push above that little battle that like right now, that little battle that happened at where the big order was right there. So I was willing to just like take the rest off right there. My stop loss is already there. I'm just holding it as it trails down. I know that price should continue through the lows at this point. So I want to trail super close. Especially once it breaks the low. I need to be right on top of it because usually once it breaks the low, it wants to pop right back up. So I wanted to be ready for that pop. Broke the low. Move your stop. I just wanted to see how much momentum it had. Boom. I want to be trailing right above or right at that order right there. I got out because it's below the low, and I know that it wants to pop back up. So decent profit for a big ass headache. So price actually ended up continuing lower after a retracement, basically back into that big order at the first swing low of the day, and continue lower. But I was good to go, and